Hello and welcome. I'm Silvia Pavoni, economics editor of The Bank, and I'm talking to Renato Lulia, who is the head of Itaú Unibanco's market intelligence and investors relations. Welcome, Renato.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This is a new role that you've taken up, and it means that you're now looking at some global strategic issues for the bank, coming from your previous experience, which was in charge of the international operations of Itaú Unibanco. Itaú Unibanco is Latin America's largest banking group by a big margin. And so I'm very keen to ask you what the past years meant for the bank and for banking in general, given, of course, the difficulties created by the pandemic, not just in terms of the loss of lives and livelihoods, but also, of course, in terms of the recession that is hitting Brazil, not as badly as international observers had feared around the middle of last year, yet the situation is still very much fluid. So which kind of results are we going to see coming out of banks? Maybe in Brazil, we can start first with Brazil and then generally across Latin America.
Again, thanks for having me in. And I took over this new role in March last year. So it's been roughly a little bit less than a year. It's been quite a change, right? Number one, assuming that position in the middle of a crisis, remotely as well, because that's when I get to see my new teams. And but it's been a very difficult year for the industry as a whole, and it goes without saying that it's been a very difficult year for the economy as a whole. Having said that, what we're seeing now is that the projections that we had in the beginning of the crisis seem to be more negative than reality, which is potentially good news, right? I mean, when the crisis started, we felt that the Brazilian economy could contract by as much as 10%. And it turns out that, the GDP is going to contract by, quote unquote, just 4.5%, which of course is a positive. We felt that delinquency ratios would go up much more than we've seen they're going to go up now. We put a substantial level of provisions in our balance sheet. And we are glad we did that. And we thought that business will take much longer to react. But the reality is that economic activity has picked up also much faster than we thought initially. So all in all, it's been a very difficult year. We had to learn how to work remotely. We had to learn very fast on how to serve our clients without having our bank branches fully operational, especially during the beginning of the crisis. We had to reinvent the way that we work. We had to, we were worried about our families and our colleagues as well. But in all, it seems that we managed to go through the crisis by being very focused on number one, making sure that the bank was operating as it should. Number two, making sure that the balance sheet was robust enough, putting provisions in place, having high levels of liquidity. And third, last but not least, making sure that our clients were looked after. So we came up with a massive plan of being very proactive in terms of helping clients go through the crisis. That was mainly focused on the retail bank. So we helped millions of clients that, of course, had a big impact in their economic situation in the crisis, and that's paying off. It's paying off because we feel that clients are being able to go through this, and delinquency ratios are showing that those initiatives helped with their finances.
So thinking about your concerns for this year, I also want to ask you about sustainability. So as part of your new role, you are also in charge of the environmental, social, and governance (ESG) strategy of the bank. I know that you've created a new team that oversees this, and that will come to grips, I guess, with the related ESG disclosures, what that means, and what the challenges are. So I wonder whether this is also going to be a theme alongside dealing with the recession, dealing with the ongoing pandemic, and dealing with the challenges and also opportunities that the technology offers, whether this is going to be a theme that is really going to take up in larger amounts of energy and time from Itaú in terms of strategy.
Absolutely, Silvia. Look, we like to think that ESG is incorporated into our core business. So it's not one area initiative, it's a firm-wide initiative. So the way that we look into this, we've developed a framework over the past 2 years whereby all the ESG initiatives are embedded into core businesses. So you have the business leads, each one of them or most of them, with making sure that those initiatives are incorporated into their own businesses, and they're going to be measured against it. Our role here ideally should be only how to report that to the markets, right? So ESG should be a firm-wide initiative, and our role here in our teams is looking abroad, seeing what other firms are doing, seeing which are the new trends and standards, and also being able to report that with our different stakeholders, being those the regulators, society in general, clients, etc. And that's a really big challenge because differently from financial statements where you have the US GAAP, IFRS, or Brazilian GAAP, you don't have standards for ESG reporting. And that's tricky because you end up having to produce the same information in different ways, and it's very open to interpretation. So one of the biggest initiatives that we're trying to help is trying to move towards a global standard. And so then, investors and clients and regulators can compare different firms in the way they're doing their initiatives. But by now, we don't have that, and you end up having to produce information in many different ways, and you leave a lot of stuff open for interpretation. So one of the biggest challenges that we have in my team is trying to come up with a standard, working with different market participants and counterparties. And then the whole purpose of this is giving our different stakeholders transparency on what we're doing, and we're really proud of all the ESG initiatives that we have in the bank. And we have been doing that for 20 years. I mean, even before ESG was a thing, we have a long track record on making sure that we have good standards in governance, in social responsibility, and also in environment.
Are the pressures coming because Itaú Unibanco is an international bank, and so you're very much attuned with what goes on in global markets? Or are the pressure also coming from within Brazil, for example, or any other specific market in Latin America where you operate, either from consumers, from local investors, from regulators even?
Yeah, all of the above, right? And so I think it's good to see that's a global initiative. So if you don't have a proper ESG agenda within your business, you're going to have a hard time selling your company to your investors, even to your internal staff, right? But it's fair to say that Brazil, especially on the climate, on the environmental point of view, also has some good, big challenges and also good opportunities. That's why one of the things I've disclosed recently is that we have a separate initiative just focused on the Amazon. So Itaú came together with our two biggest competitors in Brazil, Bradesco and Santander, and together we joined forces to foster the development of the bioeconomy in the Amazon. And that's a really big plan. It's not going to happen in 1 year or not even 2 years. But we're building up a really cool roadmap that hopefully we're going to be able to help with protecting and developing the Amazon. So it comes there's a global element, but we're going to make sure that we also have the local focus as well.
But this is something that, again, is very much a private-led initiative by the three banks. But it may feel like it goes against what the government, at least at some point, was suggesting. So kind of giving the green card to the green light. I mean, to people to actually use exploit the Amazon more freely than in the past.
I'm not sure that the word is explore Amazon freely. I think our number one point is that we believe the Amazon worth much more to the planet as it is than now. I mean, so the value of the Amazon is as a biodiverse ecosystem, and not about the lumber or the minerals or whatever that you can find in forests. I mean, the value is to preserve the Amazon. But there's different ways to do that, and one of the ways of doing it, or potentially the only way of doing it, is making sure that you have a sustainable, bioeconomy within the region. Making sure that you have the right infrastructure that protected the rainforest. Making sure that the people that use the rainforest resources thoughtfully, they can do so, and they have the means to do it. But the whole purpose is to preserve the forest. Is not to explore it in an old-fashioned way of just cutting trees and selling the lumber and putting coming with a different type of usage for the land. The land is worth because you have trees on top of it.
Thank you, Renato. Thank you for your time and for your comments, and best of luck with your work for the future.
Thanks, Silvia.